Here's a story of a normal girl who grew up in a normal family with parents who gave her love, affection, food, and shelter. But despite it all, once she finally left the nest, she realized there was a complicated love and hate feeling towards her parents that had been growing inside her all this time. What went wrong? Is it her parents' fault? Had they been bad parents? Or is she just an ungrateful child who is playing the victim card just to gain attention? It's for you to decide. Are you ready? There is a term in Korean for kids like me, 막내, which means youngest in the group. I was born after my sister and brother, and since we had a great age gap, 9 years with my sister, 5 years with my brother, I was automatically labeled as the baby of the family. It's probably universal, but in Korean culture, people assume that being born as 막내 means you get to monopolize all your parents' love, can get away with anything, get spoiled, and live a carefree life. So I would be greeted with envy whenever people found out I was the baby of the family. People would say, 사랑 많이 받고 자랐겠다. You must have grown up feeling so loved. Of course, I would reply with a smile and nod, but sometimes, in the back of my head, I couldn't help but think, if only you knew what I've been through. As a 25-year-old adult now, till this day, I live in fear of not wanting to be a burden to someone. It's so hard to ask for help. I act strong, put a smile on my face so that I don't become a burden to anyone. Where's the root of this fear from? Just like most sob stories, the root comes from family. Even though I grew up as 막내, supposedly someone who could exploit my parents' love with the baby of the family title, I grew up with a strong resolve of not wanting to be a burden to my parents. I noticed at a young age how much older my parents looked compared to my peers' parents. Noticing that due to my sister and brother, this isn't their first or second, but it's their third bake sale or science project to help with or teacher-parent conference or school event to attend. So I thought to myself, how tired they must be. My parents never vocally expressed not wanting to be there for me because that thought probably never crossed their minds, so don't hate on my parents. I just simply made this conclusion for myself and grew up telling them, you don't have to come to my performances. You don't have to help me with the project. You don't have to drop or pick me up. I'll do it all myself, so don't worry about me. Having an older sister and brother, especially with an age gap, means more chances of stability of having someone to rely on, right? You're not wrong, but since I grew up with a sister who was physically so much smaller than me, I felt the need to help and protect her more than me relying on her. Instead of the annoying but strong and intimidating brother who would scare off boys, my brother was naive, shy, introverted, who was the main source of my parents' worries. All this made me step up to protect myself, be more independent, to do better on my studies so that I don't become an extra source of worry to my parents. I grew up never feeling like the priority. Okay, never is a strong word. I didn't quite feel like the priority while growing up. There's a term in Korean called 딸바보, which means daughter fools. Dads who would drop everything and do anything for their daughters. My friends who had dads like that would complain how annoying it is, but I envied them since I had a dad who was chill, let me do what I wanted. I knew it was coming from a place of trust, but I couldn't help but sometimes think that it was more of an interest. Work came first for him. My dad is the living proof of if you do what you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life. I have immense respect for his perseverance, passion, diligence he exerts into his work because I see how far he has come and all his dreams coming true despite all the haters and hardships. I feel proud being associated with him, being able to call him my dad, but there's a little girl in me who knows it's selfish, but sometimes wishes for a dad who would drop everything for her, who exists only for her, who cares and remembers the little things like what her favorite color is or what makes her smile. Although I grew up with the typical stoic Asian dad who expresses how much they love you not with words but by just existing, my mom, on the other hand, had the talkative, bright, empathetic, caring qualities most people associate with what defines a mom. Just like my dad though, work was important for her too, but she expressed how much she cared about me by making breakfast with vegetables she picked from her morning walks, waiting to greet me with a plate of fruits and milk after school, stalking stocking up on snacks as soon as I say I like them. You may be thinking, what is there to complain about having a mom like that? Sure, you can judge me for being an ungrateful child, but you know what I wanted? I wanted a friend-like mom who I could gossip about friends with, giggle about boys, and ask for advice, go shopping together, whine to her about useless things. But my mom didn't like the clothes I would wear, the accessories I liked, didn't get the jokes, wasn't interested in my hobbies. If I shared my problems, she would worry too excessively to the point it wasn't helping, only adding more stress for me. Gave me lectures when all I wanted was her to just laugh or cry with me. I eventually played the good daughter role of doing good in school and updating her on only necessary stuff, because why bother showing her the loud, fun, crazy side of me when she won't understand? My family seemed so boring. I'm sorry if that's a little mean, but my parents they didn't have hobbies because work was their hobby. There were no family trips because my sister and brother were already off to university, and my frugal parents would only go on trips if it was half work related. There were no family traditions like movie night or game night or Christmas dinners because they were too Asian to see the point of it all, if you get what I mean, which was hard for a girl like me who may have been brainwashed by American media, but I so wanted that tight-knit family. Once I left for university and people would ask, "Don't you miss your parents?" I would reply with the standard answer of course I do. But to be honest, I was truly enjoying this new type of freedom of not having to hide my actual outfit over baggy jackets when going out of the house, freedom to hang with friends as long as I wanted, freedom of being able to avoid my parents if I was having a bad day. My upbringing made me rely on my friends or just myself more than family, so I didn't really feel that homesick. And that thought of not being homesick would always lead me to feel guilt for not having my parents come to mind the first thing during moments I needed help or wanted to share a happy or sad moment. Guilt when I watched my friends get excited to update their parents or do regular checkups with them. I couldn't relate. My thoughts would spiral down to, is there something wrong with me? I feel guilty for not feeling satisfied with my childhood. Why? Because there is no clear villain that I can blame for my bad days. I would never wish it upon anyone, but to be frank, it's not like I had emotionally or, God forbid, physically abusive parents. But why do I feel so sad for my younger self? Why do I have this baggage of anxiety, fear of being a burden, constantly seeking validation, being stubbornly independent, desiring to be prioritized at all times? Why do these baggages point their fingers at my parents, who I know did their best, but sometimes I just don't want to admit it? I grew up inside the bubble of love and prayer from my parents, but why do I feel so sad for the should have, could have childhood I lost? Having a villain to blame makes your problems easier to process, doesn't it? Especially if the blame doesn't fall on you. So for many years, I couldn't help but blame my bad days on my parents. Dad should have been there for me more, which would have made me into a more emotionally available adult. Mom should have played the strong, invincible mother character and expressed her worries less for me to learn how to rely on someone and ask for help. The list would go on and on during my bad days, but you know what I realized? The true villain in my childhood may have been me. I could have opened up more for my parents to baby me when I had the chance. I could have told my parents to come watch my performances even though they won't understand the English. I could have tried harder to make my mom understand my opinions instead of having prejudice against her. I could have acted more selfish at times and made my parents do things for me instead of acting tough. I could have introduced them to fun hobbies instead of judging them for being boring because maybe they just didn't know how to have fun outside of work. What I learned from watching a lot of criminal documentaries is that most criminal origin stories start with growing up with an abusive family. Doesn't that say a lot? The older I get, the more I realize the truth in the saying, nothing is more important than family. We can't pick and choose what kind of parents we get, but we can choose what to do with what we've got. We tend to only look at our parents by putting them in a box called mom and dad, but they still are just a boy and a girl, a man and a woman living life for the first time just like you and me. When we make mistakes, we get to make excuses like, oh, I'm just a kid or I'm just a student. but why can't parents give that same excuse too? I get that becoming an adult comes with owning up to more responsibilities and having less room for mistakes, but navigating life with the identity of being a parent cannot be easy, because sometimes I don't want to admit it, but if you think about it, it's your parents' first time being a parent. The first is always hard for everybody, right? Keep in mind, I'm not speaking for all parents, but for my parents, they did the best with what they've got, and if their best doesn't satisfy me, then I felt that I was just hurting myself. Just because I wasn't loved the way I wanted to be loved, it doesn't mean my parents didn't love me. It means they loved me in the only way they knew how. By cutting plates of fruits for me, letting me quit SAT prep classes with no question asked, trusted me instead of pressuring me with academics, supported my passion for dance and theater, and believed in me no matter what. Whenever I doubt my abilities or personality, I think about how good of a person my parents are. This then makes me think, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, so I can't be that bad, right? Truly, nothing is more important than family because they are the foundation, blueprint I get to look back on whenever I feel lost while navigating through life. It's actually really sad knowing that having a loving family is a privilege during this day and age. So as I grow older, I'm learning not to take it for granted. I don't think people are born into a perfect family. A perfect family is created through arguments, tantrums, laughter, tears, and unconditional love from both parties. With that said, I hate that I love my ordinary family more than anything in this world.